Ever watch Rick and Morty and wonder about those crazy adventures through like parallel universes? Well,
Yeah.
turns out some of those wild ideas actually come from real science. So
Crazy, right?
today we're going to take a deep dive into quantum mechanics
Oh,
and
yeah.
parallel universes, the whole nine yards,
Okay.
and try to figure out if those infinite realities
Mm-hmm.
could actually exist.
Yeah, it's gonna be a fun one.
So,
Big questions today.
big
Like,
questions.
what if every choice you make, every coin you flip,
Right.
creates a whole new universe?
Okay.
Think about
Well,
it.
before we get too lost in the multiverse, let's start with the basics.
Okay.
We've got some really interesting articles and research on this. And to be honest, even I'm a little fuzzy on some of this quantum stuff.
Oh, yeah, it can be tricky.
Yeah.
So let's break it down.
Okay.
Imagine you have a tiny marble, like the kind you played with as a kid.
Okay. Yep.
In the everyday world, you know where it is, how fast it's moving.
What it's doing, right?
Yeah, makes sense so far. Now, picture, instead of that marble, a tiny electron,
Okay.
one of the building blocks of atoms.
Mm-hmm.
Quantum mechanics says this electron doesn't have a definite location
No.
or speed until we actually measure it.
So are you saying like it's everywhere and nowhere at the same time?
Exactly. It's in a state called superposition, where it exists in multiple states simultaneously. It's
Whoa.
like it's smeared across reality. A
Interesting.
blurry cloud of possibilities.
So the very building blocks of our world, like you're saying,
Yeah.
they exist in this like blurry state of possibilities
Oh,
until
yeah.
we look at them.
Exactly. Yeah.
That's a pretty crazy idea to even think about.
It is. Yeah.
But how does that lead to the idea of parallel universes?
Well, think about what happens when we actually try to measure that electron.
Okay.
All those possible states, they suddenly collapse into one definite state.
So it's like the electron suddenly just like chooses
Yeah, it's like it chooses
location, yeah, and a speed.
and a speed, right?
But what happens to all those other possibilities then?
That's a good question.
Yeah.
Do they just disappear?
Right.
That's where things get really interesting.
Okay.
One way to think about it is that those other possibilities,
Yeah.
they don't actually vanish. They
Mm.
branch off into separate realities,
Oh.
and each one representing a different outcome of the measurement.
So you're saying every time we measure something, even something as small as an electron,
Yeah,
the universe splits.
that's the idea.
That's wild.
It is wild, and that's the essence of the many-world interpretation,
Okay.
or MWI.
MW.
It suggests that instead of a single reality,
Right.
we have countless parallel universes
Oh, wow.
constantly branching off with every single quantum event.
Okay, so to see how this mind-bending concept plays out
Yeah.
in the, the real world, the everyday world, let's consider a very famous thought experiment.
Okay.
Schrodinger's cat.
Oh, yes.
Have you heard of this?
Schrödinger's cat, a classic.
Yes.
But before we dive into that,
Okay.
do you have any questions about superposition
Mhm.
or like the basic idea of MWI so far?
No, I think I'm good for now.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
So Schrödinger's cat, it's a thought experiment. It
Yeah.
was designed to kind of illustrate the paradoxical nature of superposition when you apply it to the macroscopic world,
Right.
the world we experience, right?
Yeah, because like so far we've been talking about tiny, tiny particles like electrons.
Exactly.
So how does this apply to something like, an
Right.
actual cat?
Okay, so
Like, how do you even start to imagine that?
yeah, so picture this, right? I got a cat
Right.
inside a sealed box.
Okay.
And also inside this box, there's a device. And this device contains a single radioactive atom.
Oh, okay.
And this atom has a 50-50 chance of decaying
Okay.
within a certain, time frame. Now, if it decays, it triggers a mechanism
Okay.
that releases a lethal poison, which
Right.
would, kill the cat.
Yeah,
But
that's not good.
if it doesn't decay,
Yeah.
the cat's safe.
Okay, I'm following so far.
Right.
A little morbid, but I get the setup.
Okay, now here's the catch. According to quantum mechanics, until we open the box and observe the atom,
Okay.
it exists in a superposition
Okay.
of both decayed and not decayed states.
So the atom is both decayed and not decayed at the same time.
Exactly, at the same time.
Whoa. That's
Right.
really weird.
And since the cat's fate is
Yeah.
directly tied to the state of the atom,
Right.
the cat itself is also in a superposition
So you're saying
of being both dead and alive?
a cat that's both dead and alive?
Yeah.
That seems kind of impossible.
Well, that's the paradox.
Yeah.
Right. Our everyday experience tells us a cat can't be both dead and alive at the same time.
Right, exactly.
But according to quantum mechanics, this is exactly what superposition implies.
Wow. So then if the universe splits,
Right.
what happens to, like, you, the observer?
Yeah, that's
Like
what
in one universe, you open the box and the cat's alive and purring.
Right.
And in another
Yeah.
one,
Yeah.
you're met with a not so great outcome.
Yeah. Yeah.
So does that mean there's now two of you, each
There's
experiencing a different reality?
That's the mind of bending part of MWI. You, the observer, also become entangled
Okay.
with the system. It's not just the cat that's in superposition.
So it's like,
It's the entire system, including you, the observer.
mm,
So yes, in a sense, there would be two versions of you, each experiencing a different branch of reality.
that's heavy stuff.
Yeah.
So let me get this straight.
Okay.
Every time a quantum measurement
Yeah.
happens,
Yeah.
every time there's a possibility for like different outcomes,
Uh-huh.
the universe branches,
Yeah.
creating new universes for each possibility.
That's the implication of MWI. Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
And it's not just, limited to
Yeah.
these elaborate thought experiments like Schrödinger's cat.
Right.
It applies to every quantum event,
Oh, wow.
every interaction between particles at the subatomic level.
Hmm.
I mean, think about the countless atoms interacting within your body right now.
Right.
Each of those interactions causes a branching.
Wow.
We're talking about an unfathomable number of
Yeah.
new universes being created every second.
So there were like countless versions of me out there.
Yeah,
I'm
potentially.
just living out a slightly different version of my life.
Could be, yeah.
It's like choose your own adventure.
Right.
In like
That
a
idea.
cosmic scale.
Yeah.
But wouldn't all these splitting universes create a lot of like new matter?
That's a common misconception.
Okay.
MWI doesn't proprise the creation of new matter or energy.
Mm-hmm.
Instead, think of it like this.
Okay.
You have a loaf of bread, right?
Right.
And you keep slicing it into thinner and thinner pieces.
Mm-hmm.
The total amount of bread remains the same. You're just dividing it into smaller portions.
Okay.
Similarly, the total amount of matter and energy in the universe
Mm-hmm.
remains constant.
Okay.
It's just being redistributed across these branching realities.
Okay, that makes sense.
Right.
Yeah.
So,
But if these other universes are like
Yeah.
constantly branching off,
yeah.
can we ever interact with them or
Mhm.
travel between them?
That's a question that
Like, it would be pretty cool to meet my alternate selves.
I know, right? That's
Yeah.
that's a question that's fascinated physicists and science fiction writers alike.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, most physicists who subscribe to MWI
Okay.
believe that interaction or travel between these branches is highly improbable,
Okay.
if not impossible.
Okay.
The universes, once split, they evolve independently. It's
Yeah.
like having parallel lines
Right.
that never intersect.
So no portal gun to hop between dimensions.
Not that we know of.
Bummer. But seriously, this is like
Yeah.
giving me an existential crisis.
I know, it's a lot to think about.
If every possibility is playing out somewhere,
Yeah.
does that make our choices meaningless?
That's a profound question,
Yeah.
and one that gets to the heart of how we interpret MWI.
Okay.
Some argue it diminishes the significance of our actions, while others believe it underscores the richness and vastness of reality.
Okay.
It all depends on your perspective.
Yeah, I can see that.
Yeah.
This is definitely a lot to process.
Yeah, it is.
But before we like spiral further into like
Okay.
philosophical implications and stuff,
Yeah.
can we go back to the physics for a second?
Sure.
You mentioned that most physicists who support MWI
Yeah.
don't think travel between these universes is possible.
Uh-huh.
So, like, why is that? Okay, so no universe hopping for us, it seems.
Not yet, at least.
But I'm still kind of curious about, like, why these universes would stay separate.
Yeah, it's a good question.
Or what's the physics behind that?
Well, it all boils down to the nature of quantum entanglement
Mhm.
and the way these universes branch off.
Right.
So when a quantum event causes a split, the
Mhm.
resulting universes, they become what we call decoherent.
Decoherent.
Yes, meaning they no longer interact with each other in any
Mhm.
measurable way.
So it's like they're on totally different wavelengths.
Yeah.
Even though they came from the same point.
That's a great analogy.
Mm.
It's as if each universe is tuned to a different frequency,
Okay.
preventing them from, interfering with each other.
So like radio waves.
Like radio waves.
You can have multiple stations broadcasting,
Well, yeah,
but your radio can only tune in to one at a time.
exactly.
Okay, that makes sense.
Right.
So even though these universes might be out there,
Yeah.
like right alongside ours,
Potentially, yeah.
they're basically invisible,
Pretty much.
and we can't get to them.
Yeah. Inaccessible.
That's kind of
But it's a little-
fascinating,
It is.
but also a little bit disappointing.
Yeah, I get that.
That's-
It sparks the imagination, though, doesn't it?
It totally does.
To think there might be countless other realities
Right.
playing out right alongside our own,
Mhm.
each with its own unique set of possibilities.
Yeah, like what if?
Yeah.
But even if we can't, like, visit these other universes,
Right.
thinking about this stuff
Yeah.
has to have some value.
Absolutely. Thinking about these ideas, even if they seem outlandish,
Okay.
it pushes us to confront the boundaries of our understanding.
Hmm.
It reminds us that there's still so much we don't know about the universe. And our current models of reality,
Right.
they might just be a tiny glimpse of a much grander picture.
It's like we're constantly expanding our awareness of what's possible
Yeah.
scientifically
Yeah.
and philosophically.
Exactly. It's a never-ending journey of exploration and discovery.
Yeah.
Who knows what mind-blowing breakthroughs await us
Right.
as we continue to probe the mysteries of the quantum realm.
Well, I think we've all had enough mind-bending physics for one day.
I think that's enough for today.
It's been a wild ride exploring the concept of parallel universes
Yeah, it has.
and the many worlds interpretation.
Absolutely.
If you're still trying to wrap your head around all of this, you're not alone.
Yeah, it's a lot to take in.
It's definitely a lot to process, but hey,
Right.
maybe that's a good thing.
Yeah.
Maybe it's a reminder to embrace the unknown.
To question our assumptions.
Right.
And to never stop exploring the mysteries of the universe, both big and small.
Until next time, keep those minds open and those imaginations firing.